What's going on, YouTube? Today I bring you my inside defensive line rankings for the 2021 NFL Draft. Edge players coming next. Without further ado, let's get into it. Starting off at number 1, really easily for me, is Christian Barmore. This is a guy that, yes, I will admit I personally slept on for a while, but this is the best defensive lineman in the class, and it's really not even close. In his final 2 seasons there at Alabama, he averaged, I believe, a 98 overall pass rushing score, which was like the best in college football in the last 2 years by more than a mile. This dude, if you go back and look, I mean, he should be getting more hype than he is. He's an absolute game wrecker. He reminds me so much of Chris Jones, and I mean, comparing anyone to Chris Jones is really, really scary. He's going to go a lot higher than people think. I would not be surprised if he lands somewhere in the top 20. He could really even get into the top 15 with maybe the, Vikings or someone. But this dude is a game changer, and in any defense, he's going to be amazing. Is he the best run defender? No, definitely not. But when it comes to the power that this guy brings in the pass rush, I mean, there's no one better in college football. Then at number 2, we have Levi Onwuzurike. I think Maurice Hurst is a great comparison to him, who just signed with the 49ers, actually. He'll probably be a second rounder. If you go look at Levi Onwuzurike play, there is really nothing to doubt about his game. He is a very powerful block shedder. Really, really good in the run game. Unlike Christian Barmore, he is much, much better in the run game. The reason I have him at number 2 is just because he's simply just not as much of a game changer as Christian Barmore, but also his pass rush is definitely not even close to Christian Barmore. When it comes to his moves, he's basically either going to bull rush you or that's pretty much it. So he does not create the most pressure in the world. He definitely doesn't have the sack numbers, but as a run defender, you're not getting much better than this coming out of college. And it's still a ton of upside. I really like Levi Onwuzurike, and one of the more safer prospects in this class, because Christian Barmore, he could just be another Marcel Darius. But Levi Onwuzurike, I see him at worst being a good starting defensive tackle. Then number 3, we have Milton Williams, a guy that's really raised up on draft boards out of absolutely nowhere. But I mean, this dude, like similar to Levi Onwuzurike, is not the pass rush. He's not the pass rush guy, especially not what Christian Barmore is. He's pretty slow, matter of fact, even though he's not the biggest guy. The thing about Milton Williams is that, I said Levi Onwuzurike is pretty much as good as you're getting when it comes to run defending. I take that back. Milton Williams is the best you're going to get. It's not kind of the best. He is the best run defender that you're going to get coming out of college. I list this guy as a line player because I've never seen anyone bolster a line as well as this guy. And again, that's considering the fact that he's like 6'2" and barely 300 pounds. I compared him to Falorunzu Fatukasi, which is a guy that none of you have really heard, but he's actually a defensive tackle for the Jets, a kind of undersized guy, but was one of the best run defenders in football last year. And I think such a perfect comparison here for Milton Williams. Could the talent down in that division just not have been the best? Sure. But I think even against some of the better running backs, he's shown he's an absolute dominator at the defensive line. And I really like Milton Williams. Somewhere in the second round is where I feel pretty confidently he will go. Then, number 4, we have Osa Odigizua out of UCLA. Reminds me a lot of Tyson Alulu. However, he's not the heaviest guy in the world, not by a mile. So I list him as a lighter Tyson Alulu. Osa Odigizua is an interesting prospect because a guy that really wasn't getting a lot of hype until after his pro day. And he showed. I mean, this guy can be legit. Obviously, at UCLA, you're not always facing like the best talent, but there at his pro day, he did face a lot of good talent, a lot of good blockers, and he made them look really stupid. When it comes to versatility, that's also a place that Osa is very good at because he's light and quick enough and athletic enough to play defensive end. So he's not just a defensive tackle, however, can play defensive tackle very well at times, as he's shown. One of the more boomer bust products, but could be a very, very good defensive lineman if he does boom. Otherwise, yeah, he could just be a bust because, for a defensive tackle, obviously you're hoping that they're at least somewhat strong. And this dude definitely struggles with the strength and shedding blocks at times. So that's why I get why some people don't like him. But I do like Osa. And even if he's not the strongest of guys, I feel like he's so versatile. He can play defensive end, maybe even better than defensive tackle. Then at number 5, we have Davion Nixon out of Iowa. Kawan Short is like a copy and paste of this dude, or rather Davion Nixon is a copy and paste of Kawan Short. Second round still feels appropriate for this guy. Another guy that is pretty boomer bust simply just because he's about as athletic as they come in defensive tackles, but again, struggles with that strength bit. He's not the best block shedder. He's not going to create the pass rush that consistently, but as a guy that's going to spread the line, he's the exact type of guy you want. If you're wanting to spread the line out, Davion Nixon is the guy you want front and center because he is so athletic. He's got such a great reach at that defensive tackle position that he's, again, one of the better run defenders in this class. So Davion Nixon, kind of the same as Osa, however, definitely less versatile. He is definitely a true defensive tackle, which is what scares me a little bit. That's why he's under Osa, is because as a true defensive tackle, he's not the strongest of guys. So one of the more boomer bust players, I still do really like Davion Nixon. Then at number 6, we have Alim McNeil. This guy is basically Kenny Clark, but without the power. And so, yeah, yet again, another one of those guys, just like Osa and just like the previous guy we mentioned, he's athletic. He is a great run defender. He is quick. He will make the run defense, but he is definitely not, going to make that consistent pass rush that we've seen. And that's why I list him down with a nice little Gordon down there saying he's raw. It's because he is. He's not played a lot at North Carolina State, as I believe the school. Maybe I'm not remembering correctly right now, but he's not played a lot of games. I think he's only played like 19 games. And so if he does turn out to be a good pass rusher, it's simply just because he's not played that much yet. So as a raw prospect, I see him going 3rd round, might slip into the 4th or 5th. Yeah, so, with him, I see a lot of Kenny Clark. The athleticism is great. He's speedy, but he's, again, it's not even strength he really struggles with this time. It's just the pass rush is not there. But again, because he is so raw, he can get it. So one of the more boomer bust players again, but I still really do like Alim McNeil. Then at 7, we have Tyler Shelvin out of LSU. Danny Shelton, again, another one of those just copy and paste comparisons here. I see 3rd round from him. Yet again, another really boomer bust guy, and just like a lot of the other guys on this list, run defense is amazing. I mean, this dude is big. Like, he is a big person, but he moves with really nice speed and quickness for his size, which is what makes him, again, such a great run defender at the nose there at LSU. And also, as some of these other guys, just struggles at the pass rush. He's just not consistent. He doesn't have a lot of moves to use, and that's really what's going to decide the future for a lot of these defensive tackles here is, can they develop that pass rush? Because if they can, they'll be elite defensive tackles. I've listed almost every single guy here. Their ceiling is a top 15 or better defensive tackle, but a lot of them are also potentially bust just because it really depends on, do they find that pass rush in them or not. And I'm sure at least one of these guys will. And, I've kind of listed them here as in, I don't think Tyler Shelvin is going to be the one to do that. If any of them are likely to do that, I feel like it's Osa Odighizuwa. Although, of course, Tyler Shelvin can. I saw something today even on a YouTube comment about how, Mel Kiper is stupid and we shouldn't trust these, quote, draft experts. And for anyone that says that, no one can really ever truly know if a player is going to be great or not. Did literally anybody think Tom Brady was going to be the greatest quarterback of all time? No. There are certain things that you just cannot predict. For all we know, Trevor Lawrence, like I said in my last video, for all we know, Trevor Lawrence could get injury prone and his career could be over quicker than Tyler Shelvin's is. Anything can happen. Any player can go anywhere and be anything. We're just using what we've seen to project what could happen. So for people saying that stuff, just stop, because it's like, we're never going to be 100% correct. So that's all I had to say on that matter, my little rant. Moving on to number 8, we have maybe a surprising player on this list, and maybe one that many of you haven't even heard of, but Mustafa Johnson out of CU. As a Colorado sports fan, although I'm not a Colorado football college sports fan, go Buckeyes. Of course, I have to watch these guys play sometimes just because, now I live in Colorado. As you can probably tell by the Broncos and the Nuggets and the Avalanche mania. Mustafa Johnson reminds me a lot of Grady Jarrett. I don't expect him to go till 6th, 7th round just because at CU, no, he didn't play the best talent. No, he didn't have off-the-charts production. But yet again, another very boom-or-bust player. But the thing with Mustafa Johnson is I love the upside in him. The thing about him is that he does not have the best power. He's not the quickest guy in the world. You might look at him at first glance and say, well, if he's not powerful and he's not quick, then, he's obviously just bad. I would say you're wrong. I really, really like the upside of Mustafa Johnson. I think, he is one of those later round guys that people are really sleeping on, and there's nothing to really say right now that could be that he'll be, a future all-pro defensive tackle. But if you look at him play, there are some plays that, he shows really, really good stuff. And he could be just like Grady Jarrett, where he goes super late, and could, in a few years could break out and be a top 10 defensive tackle. So I really like Mustafa Johnson. I think a lot of people are sleeping on him. And if you don't know who this guy is, I really think you should go look at some of his tape because he is really solid at times. So then at number 9, we have Tommy Togiai. Maybe someone that, people are surprised to see this low here at number 9. I have him as a comparison to Mike Purcell. Thing with Tommy Togiai, I love him. He's quick. Like a lot of these other guys in this draft class, he's athletic. He's quick. One of the smaller guys and lacks in that size or power. I believe this guy is way overhyped, personally. I still think he's worth a 3rd round pick. I still think he holds a lot of upside. Like a lot of these other guys, he can be a starter or he can be a bust. He was playing around a lot of great talent there at Ohio State, and there are certain players that simply just play better when they have talent around them. And it's kind of like what I said with Kyle Trask. Hearing that statement might make me sound stupid, like, duh, they're going to play better with better talent, but there are certain guys that excel with certain talent. Think Kyle Trask, Bud Dupree, right? Tommy Togiai, I feel, is just one of those guys. If he goes to a team that already has, a top 15 pass rush, then sure, I think he'll be a great addition. I think he could be one of the better defensive tackles in the class. But if some team's taking him, expecting him to be like a day one starter on a core defense, I think this guy's going to be major bust even for the 3rd round. So I love Togiai. I love some of his play, but he is a really small guy and one of those players that he creates production based off the players around him. So one of those guys where it does really depend where he goes. But I have him at 9 right now. Then last on the list at number 10, we have J2 Feel or Tufele. Not quite sure which one. I compared him to Dalvin Tomlinson. Thing about J2 Fele, there is a lot to like. He has very favorable size. He has great power. He has great burst for a defensive tackle. The problem is, for the size, for the solidness that he is, or for the non-solidness he is, he's just not that solid a player. There's certain defensive tackles that at a certain size, you just expect them to basically shut down anyone running at him, but he just doesn't have that power, that stance. This is a guy that if you switched him to say the 3 technique, he'd be the worst player in football. J2 Fele is strictly a defensive tackle, and even with the size and power, he is not that solid of a player in terms of just being able to stand there and take a hit, for example. So tackling can be a concern sometimes with this guy. The other thing is that he is super, super scheme dependent. Wherever he goes, they basically need him to be a straight up nose tackle whiffing out the quarterback. They cannot be expecting him to stop the run. They cannot be expecting him to reach for the quarterback. They cannot be expecting him to do anything else than just be a defensive tackle and try to get to the quarterback. If he goes to a team, kind of like Tommy Togiai, if he goes to a team where he fits that, then great. He could be one of the better defensive tackles in football. If he doesn't go to a team that needs that from him, he'll be an absolute bust. And I think he's going to fall a bit farther than where some people do have him. Yeah, really interesting prospect. Another guy that can be a pretty good starter or could just be a bust. That's basically the name of the defensive tackle class, except for the top 2 guys. But that is my inside defensive lineman rankings for the 2020 NFL Draft. Like I said, edge rankings coming next. If you like the video, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see all you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.